For, what, 100 years now, the legend of a massive ape-like creature hiding in the forests of North America has absolutely captivated us. We call him Bigfoot. But now, in an age where we have tech everywhere, the mystery actually feels deeper than it ever has. And it all boils down to one simple but really profound question.
See, this is the thing that just doesn't add up, right? This is the paradox at the very heart of the whole Bigfoot debate. We have more cameras, more sensors, more ways to watch the world than ever before in human history. And yet, that one piece of solid, undeniable proof, it's always just out of reach. It's the one question that keeps believers searching and gives skeptics their best argument.
And to really get why this is such a puzzle, you just have to look at the incredible leap in technology we've made. Back in 1967, when that famous Patterson-Gimlin film was shot, you were dealing with grainy 16mm film. It was pricey stuff, and you had to know what you were doing to get the exposure right. Fast forward to today, billions of us, literally billions, have 4K AI-powered cameras in our pockets, not to mention drones that can see in thermal. The world is being filmed constantly. And you know, a Reddit user just absolutely nailed it with this comment. How is it possible that the best, most talked about piece of footage we have is still that shaky, blurry clip from more than half a century ago? It's a point that really makes you stop and think, are we even looking for the right thing? Or maybe, is there anything out there to find in the first place? But okay, before we get completely lost in all the talk about pixels and proof, it is so important to understand that this story didn't just start in 1967. The legend has these deep, really profound cultural roots that go back way before the modern hunt for some kind of monster. And the words we use here, they really matter. For many First Nations cultures, this being is Sasquatch. And Sasquatch is not a monster. It's a respected figure, a guardian of the forest, something with real spiritual meaning. Now, that is a world away from Bigfoot, right? The pop culture version that's usually shown as a beast to be hunted or just a puzzle for us to solve. As one elder explained, this isn't some new story for them. The Sasquatch have been part of their traditions since, quote, the beginning of time. It's a relationship built on respect and coexistence, not just a blurry glimpse through the trees. So in this view, we're not talking about an undiscovered animal, but a known, spiritual part of their world. So that brings us from ancient legend right into the modern scientific quest for answers. With any kind of physical evidence being so hard to come by, researchers turned to what is probably the most powerful tool we have for identification: DNA. See, without a body, or a bone, or even a really clear photograph, the kind of stuff scientists need to officially say, yep, this is a new species, the whole field was kind of at a standstill. So the hunt shifted from the massive to the microscopic. Could little bits of evidence, things like hair or blood or tissue, finally give us the holy grail of proof? So how does this work? Well, the process is actually pretty straightforward. First, you collect a sample from out in the field. Second, you take it to a lab and sequence its DNA. And third, you run that genetic code through these huge global databases to see if you get a match. If it's a known animal, bing, you get a hit. If it's something totally new, well, that's the big question, isn't it? And people have submitted a whole variety of samples for testing. I mean, we're talking about everything you can imagine. Clumps of hair caught on branches, supposed bloodstains, bits of tissue, even saliva left on trees. The raw material for a major discovery was definitely there. All right, so after years and years of collecting all this potential evidence, all this analysis, where did the genetic trail finally lead? Well, the answer turned out to be pretty consistent, but maybe not the one a lot of people were hoping to find. One of the biggest and most serious efforts was a study in 2014 led by a guy named Brian Sykes at the University of Oxford. His team went out and gathered 30 of the most promising hair samples they could find, from museums and private collections all over the globe, all of them supposedly from strange primates like Bigfoot or the Yeti, and they put them all under the genetic microscope. And the results were, well, they were fascinating. Not a single one, not one, came from an unknown primate. Instead, they matched a whole bunch of familiar animals. A full 27% of them were from bears. Others turned out to be from cows, horses, dogs, even a porcupine. The DNA was telling a very clear story, and it was a story about known wildlife, not some new species. And this chart here, it's called a phyloda tree. Think of it like an evolutionary family tree. It shows you exactly what they found. You can see humans way over here on our own little branch, but sample S26, this supposed Bigfoot sample, it lands right here, tucked in with the panda and the polar bear. Genetically speaking, it's a bear. Case closed. And here's another one. Just to really drive the point home, this is sample S140. It was also submitted as a possible novel hominin. They ran the same tests, and where did it land on the tree of life? Right next to its closest relative, a common dog.
And look, this isn't just one study. This finding is pretty much the consensus across the scientific community. A huge review of all the major DNA studies on this topic put it very plainly. So far, none of them have produced any credible evidence for an unknown primate like Bigfoot. The DNA evidence just isn't there.
So if it's not Bigfoot, what on earth are people seeing out there? Well, this one statistic might be the most powerful clue we have. Researchers found that for every 1,000 bears you add to the population in a state or province, Bigfoot sightings go up by 4%. That is a real statistical link, and it suggests a massive, continent-wide case of mistaken identity. And this all leads to the main scientific theory, which is called the misidentification hypothesis. American black bears are big, they're covered in dark fur, and here's the kicker. They are surprisingly good at standing and walking on two legs, especially when they get startled or they're just curious. You see that in the dim light, at dusk, through the trees. It's pretty easy to see how your mind could fill in the blanks. So if the DNA points to bears and the photos are all blurry, why doesn't the legend just fade away? Why does it seem to be thriving? Well, the answer might have less to do with biology and a lot more to do with our own psychology. You know, as even the scientists writing these papers will point out, there's a big difference between a lap of evidence and solid proof that something isn't there. Science hasn't proven Bigfoot doesn't exist. It's just found no evidence that it does. And it's in that gap, right there between knowing and not knowing, that a powerful legend has room to live. Because, I mean, when you look at a place like this, so vast, so remote, filled with this kind of haunting silence, it doesn't feel empty, does it? It feels full of possibilities. The legend of Bigfoot is completely tangled up with these last great wild places on Earth, the parts of our map that are still untamed and unknown. And maybe, just maybe, this whole unending search for Bigfoot is really just a reflection of us. It speaks to our deep-seated need for mystery, our desire to believe that even now, in a world of data and satellites, there are still some profound secrets out there that the wild hasn't given up yet. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our constant quest for answers, for that final, definitive proof, what's the real value of the unknown? You know, if we finally cataloged every last creature and mapped every last corner of the planet, would our world be richer for it? Or would we have lost something vital along the way?